and gentlemen, I'd like to take this minute to welcome you guys to the March Lancaster County Planning Commission meeting. I'd like to thank all the commission members for being in attendance. Did everyone receive their packet in time to review minutes from last month's meeting?
Yes.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Any changes or updates? Noted. I'd like to make the motion to accept the minutes as presented. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Looks like we've got a pretty good slate tonight. We've got no public presentations, although Jimmy's last month was pretty good. But we have 3 public hearing items, which, Brian, before you discuss what they are, we are going to include first and second, both Article 3 and Article 4 amendments, into one public hearing moving forward. So, you want to bring us up to speed, Mr. Barnes?
Yes, thank you. You guys, you thought you were done discussing solar, but you're not. As you're aware from my memo, the Board of Supervisors decided to adopt the draft solar ordinance, Article 28. I'm going to kind of refer to it thenceforth. And that will have an effective date of July 1st of this summer, 2021. One of the housekeeping items that we have to undertake to make that ordinance valid once it does take effect is to modify the A1 and A2 district language of our zoning ordinance to allow that use. So the suggested language tonight is a line 3-1-36, and I'll read it verbatim. Utility scale solar facility, comma, pursuant to Article 28 of this ordinance and 15.2-2288.8 Code of Virginia 1950 as amended, comma, with a special exception. So this language it refers to your article, to your ordinance, Article 28, and it allows the use described in your solar ordinance with a special exception. And as we've been talking with this body and with the board in public hearings, that none of this would allow a use by right. It would be a special exception process, and there's going to be a role for the Planning Commission to play if one of these projects is proposed. You guys need to do a 2232 review and vote to find the project either substantially in accord with your comprehensive plan or not, or the board has to waive that process. So aside from that, this is something on the zoning side that just clarifies this use for these 2 districts. These 2 districts are very closely related, and this exact same language would be used in Article 3 and Article 4.
So just to be sure, we're not changing anything that we have passed before?
No.
The board has looked at what we have presented. We are just adding this into the articles, A1 and A2, to say that it is allowed.
Yeah, the only language change, as y'all saw, is in A1, the word ensure was used with an I, which to me denotes a different meaning of that word. English is a funny language, but other than that, yeah, that's the only change, and we'll keep the rest of that article the same.
Thank you, Brian.
Yeah.
You guys have
I think it's a good change, yeah.
Do you have any other questions for Brian before we open up the public hearing? Okay.
No questions.
No question. All right. This time I'd like to open up this portion of the meeting to public hearing to comment on the addition of the new recommendations for amendments to Article 3 and Article 4. And as you come forward, I respectfully ask you to state your name and district, please. Y'all all can't be in here for...
Charlie Costello, District 2. Just one item, well, more than that. A1, A2 are agricultural districts. If you read the beginning of it, it tells us what these districts are supposed to be for. And to refresh our mind, use is not consistent with the existing character of this district. The provisions may of the law, state or federal, applicable to these portions of the county are not permitted. This one, they've been passed. You've got the ordinance. It's been passed 3-2. And back in this particular item, utility scale solar facility. I think that ought to be modified the following. Between solar and facility, we should say energy generation facility. Why? Because there are other types of solar facilities that are working their way to us in the future, and we should be sure that this is for energy generation only. The other should be looked at when it comes down and not just fall into this and apply to it, because it will not. And I'm speaking about energy storage, which would be a whole different game. And that would apply, this change would apply both to A1 and A2, or Article 3 and 4. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Costello. Did you get that, Brian?
Yeah, that looks like he would prefer to see energy generation inserted between solar and facility. So read, utility scale solar energy generation facility.
Sir, I have a problem with
I'm not
that.
sure.
Yes, sir.
Charlie, you're considering things that might not be photovoltaic, that might be like a focused parabolic energy?
No, I'm talking about future, and we've already heard about it coming, of large energy storage acts that are going to be, they'll take a much more hard pattern of area and so on, and the ordinance that we have now is for this energy generation. Just as M1 says, power generation is where I'm taking it from.
Okay.
Now, since Dominion Power changed its name to Dominion Energy, I felt it should be energy generation.
So it'd be restricted to generation and put right on the grid?
Right.
Rather than
When I take
storage.
that from when Mr. Flowers was here for the Board of Supervisors meeting, I asked him about transmission, the lines and so on, what will happen in the future. And he told me he was only here for generation. That was his whole thing. He didn't know anything about transmission lines. I don't know how he can do that, but I just think there's more out there, and we need to be prepared. And this we have here is looking at the generation of energy and the transmission into the grid and movement, as the way they presented it to us. That's basis of my,
Okay. I think that was the intent of our whole ordinance anyway, was for transmission, you know, not for generation. I mean, that's the way I looked at it. I mean,
that's why I just wanted to clarify it, and I think this is the place to do it. In fact, I think the ordinance probably should be twixt
yeah, I don't have a problem with that.
that way.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My understanding is the hearing tonight is in regards of putting solar in A1 and A2.
Name and district, please.
Oh, Jackie Barrack, District 2.
Thank you.
I thought you'd never forget me as much as you said.
We know you.
Anyway, understand the hearing tonight is in regards to putting the solar in A1 and A2. I think we should move ahead with it as that, no changes as recommended by staff and presented by the Board of Supervisors. I think we need to do it, and let's get rolling on it. We've been on this too long. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Barrett. Anyone else have any comments on the additions? Okay, I'll close the public comment portion of this hearing. What do you guys think?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
can Mr. Barnes read exactly what this change is gonna be?
Yes, and this will be the same language in both articles. Utility scale solar facility, comma, pursuant to Article 28 of this ordinance and 15.2-2288.8, Code of Virginia 1950 as amended, comma, with a special exception. That's it.
With the special.
Did you want him to read it as
Yeah,
possibly as?
because I know he wrote down what
With the
Mr.
generation,
Costello was saying.
with the power
So
generation.
if you made the change, what would it look like?
If I made the change, then it would say, utility scale solar energy generation facility, and then everything else I just said. It's not a bad change. I know where Mr. Costello is going with that, and the storage, the batteries, facilities are on the horizon, they're coming. I told Don earlier, I said, ask me a year and a half from now, I'll probably know a lot more about them, just like if a year and a half ago, I didn't know much about solar facilities. So they're coming. I don't think at this time, anyone could construe a solar storage or a energy storage facility with what you all have put together with Article 28, because it's pretty explicit about its purpose, and I don't think it's a storage type of facility is the intent of Article 28. That being said, it's not a big edit, it's just 2 lines, and it would further strengthen that line, but that's up to you guys.
In a energy generation facility, in a solar farm,
Mhm.
are there any batteries used for any temporary storage, like,
Yes, yeah.
yeah, so.
Yeah, that's, in every facility that we've permitted generally in the building.
Has some
Oh,
storage.
yeah, you really want, that really makes I know a household system work better to have the energy backup where you could run 2 or 3 days of cloudy weather off of your batteries. I think the opposition is gonna come to the battery systems because there is a little more element of toxicity and danger and fire and things like that with the battery systems on the bigger utility scale size. Whereas right now, if somebody proposes a solar panel only facility, it is largely inert. There might be problems with stormwater and other things that are worthy of discussion, but as far as toxicity, there is none. But when you introduce a battery kind of thing to a facility, that's a different ballgame.
Now, the question was, in a typical solar facility today, is there any storage of power? Like, so I just don't want this change of language to limit just what's typically built out there.
Right now,
I don't know.
I-
And it's
Yeah.
my special exception anyways.
Yes.
We might be splitting hairs
I was
here.
thinking the same thing.
That's a very good point, especially if you have a smaller community scale facility presented. The battery element of it may be an integral part of that facility working for a little neighborhood or something. And it's still going to be up to you guys for the 2232 review and the board for the ultimate vote on the special exception itself. So there is still protection there. You're right, narrowing your language down does narrow you to later on, you've got to either have just a ban on energy storage facilities, or you've got to have a whole other ordinance or amend Article 28 to allow them. So right now, if a battery component was a part of a regular solar farm, that would probably still be consistent with Article 28 the way it's written now, as long as it wasn't the main purpose of that facility.
Right, I just don't want us to
Yeah,
draw a box that we can't get out of.
Sure.
All of a sudden, by adding this language.
yeah, I think that's worthy of you guys considering those elements for sure.
I agree with that. I don't think we should narrow it any. We do have the special exception right of the supervisors where they can rule out anything they want. I mean, if they decide they don't want battery storage, why they can
Right, or we can recommend.
unallow it.
Yeah, we can recommend that we don't recommend it. So I think the special exception covers it.
I agree.
Yeah, in a way, I can see Charlie's point.
Yeah.
Batteries are energy storage, and energy generation is, taking the sunlight as it comes in and converting it into electric power and putting it straight on the grid. There's a lot we don't know yet about these new batteries. I've heard rumors of them, where you'll be able to power a car for 600 miles on one charge. It may be that in the future we'll have to look at what the risks are, because I don't even know how these batteries operate, if they're lithium ion or some other technology that we don't know about yet. It is an interesting question. I don't know what to say at this time because we don't have enough knowledge of the batteries. But I do know, here's an example, for instance. I notice when I drive down the highway, these big Corals propane storage tanks. Now that's stored energy there too. And there's definitely risk with that amount of energy in one location. But we don't know what would be the risks and how to manage them. And we couldn't make any effective language until we know that.
Are you comfortable with the way the language is now, currently? Are you comfortable the way we have it?
Yeah, I'm comfortable with the language as it is now.
Okay. Tara?
Good.
Glenn? Steve? I am too. I think with the special exception, I think we've covered our bases, and we've been down this path, and I don't think it's any reason to keep changing it.
I make a recommendation that we approve this and move it on to the Board of Supervisors.
Do we have to read it out exactly?
Mr. Chairman, while you held a concurrent public hearing, I do need you to vote separately on each article.
Okay. Do we need to read that out, Brian, outright? The recommendation from Mr. Richardson, as the verbiage is now?
Yes, yeah, I would do that for the, for the sake of the minutes, and then have your vote for Article 3, and then do the same thing again for Article 4, if you don't mind being that tedious.
All right. All right, we've got a recommendation, favorable recommendation to forward the new revision or new addition to A1 zoning, 3-1-36 utility scale solar facility pursuant to Article 28 of this ordinance, and 15.2-288.8 Code of Virginia 1950 as amended with the special exception. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Do we have another recommendation? Do we need to go with that? I guess we have to.
Tom did so
Oh, you-
well
yeah,
on
you
that
did.
one.
Yeah,
Well, you just listed, anyhow.
you could just repeat the same thing again if it's the same
You-
language.
Yeah, I make a
the same-
motion, we recommend Article 4, -5-58, amended ordinance for approval and adoption to the Board of Supervisors.
Okay, we have recommendation on the floor to include, hold on, it's gonna be different, this one.
41-158.
Thank you. To include 4-1-58 utility scale solar facility pursuant to Article 28 of this ordinance, and 15.2-2288.8 Code of Virginia 1950 as amended with the special exception. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Mr. Barnes.
Thank you.
And Charlie, thanks for your recommendation. Thank you very much. All right. Okay, our next public hearing item is an update to the Lancaster County Capital Improvement Budget, fiscal year 2020 through 2026. Mr. Gill, do you want to bring us up to speed, please?
Mr. Chairman, Glenn is going to put the spreadsheet up on the big screen for the benefit of the audience. But while he is doing that, you have the summary cost sheet in your package of the items that were submitted for review by the Planning Commission. As you requested at last month's meeting, I circulated the list via email so that planning commission members could individually rank the requested items and send them back to me for compilation. I attached the compilation sheet for your review. I will say that I gave a deadline for return of those. I got 5 back by the deadline, so that is what is reflected on this spreadsheet. The other 2 came in, and I just did the math on those. The only thing that would change with all 7 is that the, let me see, Glenn, wait a minute. That's not the one that I need up there, Glenn. I don't think, you can leave it up there for now. That was the unprioritized rank. The prioritized rank that you all submitted back to me would have the school security grant matching funds in the first position. Second position would be converting the school annex, the old library, into classrooms, the additional funds of $197,000. That is at the request of the school board, moving the $197,000 that would have been targeted for bus replacements into this category, since during the COVID pandemic, the buses have not been used as much as they would have been in the past. Your rankings would have had number 3 as the $10,000 for the P25 digital radio upgrade. And that would be number 3. Number 4 is the replace the county administration building roof on this building at $161,817. Number 5 is the sheriff's office building expansion for the dispatch office and additional offices at $630,000. Here's where the change would come in from adding all of your prioritizations. The next item would be the sheriff's office patrol vehicle at $38,000, followed by the sheriff's office HVAC replacements for the jail at $16,678. And the last item would have been replacing the HVAC system in the courthouse at $528,000. So this is an old version. This was the spreadsheet before the prioritizations were done. So the one you had, hard copy in your package, are listed as I just spoke, except for the HVAC replacements in the jail and the sheriff's office patrol vehicle at flip-flop. So we've got members who are representing the departments who have requested these items here tonight as well for any further questions or explanation that you may have. And I believe our EMS chief, Matt Smith, is zoomed in or on the phone. Glenn, if there are any questions there for him. And that's all I have for you. This item has been advertised as required by law. I've had no response from the public. Tonight, I need you to make a recommendation of a prioritized list for FY22 to forward to the Board of Supervisors for inclusion in their FY22 budget.
Thank you, Don. Do you guys have any questions on any of these? Okay. What do you have, Todd?
I would just like to say, though, that I think this procedure, this process is better than the way we used to do it.
I agree, because I think it's everyone's collective, independent thought.
Exactly.
Not in an open forum. Couldn't agree more. All right, Tara.
So I just had a question, and Don, maybe this is to you, or I don't know who's here representing the sheriff's office. So we talked about the expansion, and we know that they need to increase the size of the dispatch area. But I guess as we've talked about before, if we end up repurposing the high school, then there's gonna be a lot of space there. So until we know what's happening there, do we need to expend $630,000 to do this renovation to the sheriff's office building? if they needed dispatch and they needed it quickly, I think we could do something for a whole lot less than $630,000, I guess is what I'm saying. And I don't know, I'm just throwing that on the table, because we talk about that every year, and I think we should talk about it again this year.
I mean, the only response I would have to that is there's been nothing approved as far as any type of construction that would do away with the high school at this point. There is an immediate need, I believe, for expansion of the dispatch room. And so, you know, something I think is needed, whether or not it's to the level of 630,000, which would also create some additional office space there. You know, that's an item for you all to consider. Yeah, well, and Ernie Sadler is here. Lieutenant Haywood had a prior commitment. He's not here.
I'm
but-
covering Jeffrey. So basically, the problem is they're having to add 2 screens. There's no room to add those. Also, the dispatch stations that they're using now are bad. So we're looking at a considerable amount to buy those stations to replace what's there that are not going to be good next year when we have to add the 2 screens. So it's a waste of money to put what we gotta put into them now to make them usable, and next year we're not gonna have that room. So I looked into, as you had talked about, adding just a space for them. The cost difference was not a considerable amount, and right now there's also some safety issues. I think a couple of the board members went down. Steve met with them and took them through. There's some safety issues with the general public, the way they have to come in and put money on accounts. Not only with COVID, it's just the general population being able to walk down the hallway past everybody's office. So it's not only taking care of just the dispatch stations, it's also taking care of some safety issues for the sheriff and others that work in there every day. So.
Ernie, I got a question.
Sure.
And I do appreciate the time. I went down to the jail, and
It's packed, isn't
Steve
it?
showed me around, and Lieutenant showed me around. I think it was a Friday,
Friday night?
and it was nice that they let me out on Monday so I could get back
There
to
you
work.
go.
But
I have been down there in the wee hours of the morning working on things, and I can tell you it can get real hectic in there quick.
it's very, very crowded. But I guess my question for, the question about maybe waiting and putting it in the high school, but would you really think about separating that and dividing, you know, the jail would still be here? Is that an operational thing where you couldn't really separate the 2 functions?
I think the
from-
I
cost,
believe you could separate the 2. I mean, obviously, the jail would have to stay where it is. And I do like the idea of going down there, but on the flip side of it is, like you said, there's no buildings coming up for a school right now.
it's gonna be the additional
It would be
employees
5
too.
or 6 years down the road before anything would probably happen. That's just my opinion, but I don't think it'd be that long down the road. They're extremely crowded in that little room, as you've seen,
It was
you
very,
know.
very
And the
crowded.
dispatchers work all of the doors, so you have the jailers that work in the back, but the dispatchers, you know, open the doors as they get to them and need to get through. So, I mean, not only would you be adding employees to be able to take care of that, if you separate them, you'd be the cost of the electronics. And of course, you know, in today's world, electronics is what costs you. That was why, the way we designed it was to keep the electronics where they are. It was in the hundreds of thousands just to move it as much as 10 feet.
Yeah, I didn't think it maybe made sense to separate the offices. So, thank you. But it was a good
Yeah, Ernie,
question. It was
Before
good.
you leave, Ernie, I have one that maybe you can address also. We have replacing the HVAC system in the courthouse last,
Yes.
and maybe this is a moot point, maybe the total request this year is fairly modest, so maybe we'll cover all of these with no problem. But if we don't, the picture I got of the situation in the new courthouse is that the heating system is all awry, constant problems.
It is, sir.
My experience is that when the judges don't get what they think they need in the way of money, they have a way of upsetting the apple cart and ending up getting what they want. So is this a situation where,
It
That's-
kind of is. The reason that I went for it is to get it into my general budget. And of course, everybody knows when you go on an emergency plan and I'm ordered to do it, is which there is times I'm ordered to do things by the judges. At that point, I don't have any say, Don doesn't have any say, it's just get it done. So I'm trying to do a preventative measures on that. The system that was designed over there was not designed very well to begin with. The outdoor unit that produces the refrigerant to make it cool is one system. So anytime we have a problem, the whole building is down. So I'm trying to get it to a system that is basically per room, per office. So if we had issues in the future, it would only be an office down. We could move people around. Right now, I don't have that option. There's times, as of last year, I had it down for about 2 weeks. They're special order items. It's not a shelved item. So when it's down, it could be down as much as 2 weeks, and yeah, we get lots of complaints. So I'm trying to do a preventative maintenance, because if it comes down to that, it could be, yes, we would be ordered to fix it, or I could be paying extreme amounts for temporary systems to come in. By law, we have to keep it at 78 degrees, I believe it is, in that building at all times. So.
Let me ask something.
so I guess maybe it's okay to have it last. I mean, if it's really dire, why, they'll take care of it themselves and give what they need.
Wasn't it stated that there was some changes coming down from the state where they were gonna have to have 2 dispatchers? And I think it was a time involved in that too, right?
Yeah, the law is changing to where you're gonna have to have 2 dispatchers at night, 2 dispatchers at night, in case one dispatcher is administering life-saving instructions over the phone. That leaves another dispatcher available to take incoming calls.
Right.
So, yeah, that's, right now, they can get away with having 1 dispatcher at night, but it's not gonna be long before they have to have 2.
Jeffrey is on the phone to answer that question if you want to know direct.
Yeah, you know, what I'm thinking about the time frame, what you said about the school and things like that, and if they forced into having 2 dispatchers, you know, whether it's in 12 months or whatever,
We're not
then you
gonna-
don't have the room over there for them.
We will not.
Speaking to that, that's sort of the 2 takeaways I got. Number one, they're cramped, and they have been cramped, and I didn't know, you know, COVID protocol, they're all over top of one another in there.
And
I
it
certainly,
kinda-
I certainly wouldn't want to be
And
working
as you
in
know,
there.
in the past, we've also looked at trying to get some extra office space that is needed over there. And this kind of joined them both together. So,
And
I mean,
that was number 2. I still can't believe we've got general public walking by our sheriff, especially in this type of environment. You know, basically you can come in and you're right there. For all our deputies, quite frankly.
and if you look at the design, I did do a new one. I know some questions last time was because I didn't draw the Sally port on there in the existing office. I did update that. Glenn has that. If you guys would like that, he can put that on the screen. I sent it to him earlier.
I
So
noticed
that way
the,
you can kind of see what it's attaching to.
I noticed the estimate went up from last time to this time. It went up $20,000.
Well, what that was if you remember at last month's meeting, Lieutenant Haywood said that he had some additional information that night, and he didn't have all of the estimates in that original first estimate of $610,000. So that was the additional estimates that he had in the paperwork that he handed out that night. So that's where that came from. And did you say Lieutenant Haywood is on the phone?
He is on the phone for any questions.
All right.
There it is.
I cut off part of it, Glenn. So that didn't work, sorry.
And it looks like that gives nice workspace for the dispatch area, as well as private restroom facilities and offices now for the.
It did, right now, they're working with one facility that is in the front. Of course, if they have an inmate in there in what they call the holding tank, the bathroom is right beside the door to the holding tank, so they kind of get harassed when they go to the restroom. Another thing we took in consideration, one was the room for expansion later, and also, as you can tell, we moved the pay window to the front. where it has a separate door where they can only come in to the window to put monies on accounts, or handle whatever business they need to, instead of going all the way through the building. So we took in a lot of the security issues into consideration when we did the design on it, and also added some office space that they have been after for a couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, it's just that security aspect for me is huge, especially if I work there. You guys have any more questions regarding this? I do, Ernie, while you're up there. Hate to put you on the hot spot.
Sure.
But on this, I was surprised that the roof came up as high as it did, which is fine. I mean, it is what it is. But my point is, and I talked to Brian a little bit about this morning, we have gone through great lengths in redoing our comprehensive plan, although we are in control of them, but we have a historical resource committee that we could lean on. I mean, this is one of the, probably the most historical building that's on all of the county's, literature and what have you. I just hate to see us lose this slate roof if there's some way, I know it's cost and those types of things, but maybe they'll have a recommendation. Maybe we can take some of the slate off certain areas and conserve one area. I don't know, but.
I looked into that. Of course, I talked to him. We had some indications of, maybe saving some of the slate and trying to get rid of it. I have talked to the two roofers that looked at it with me. The problem with that is the labor of removing it would over triple. One, because of the weight, trying to, take it off without it breaking. They say normally about 50% of it breaks anyhow. The problem with reserving like one area is we've got problems all over the roof. So, I mean, we have problems on this side of the building, we have problems over here. It's just not in one little area. It's not like we had maybe some tree damage or something like that. It's all over the roof. It's not consistent in one spot. I see the point of trying to reserve the history of it, but the cost effectiveness of trying to do that is gonna way outweigh what we would reserve.
But
I talked to Robert Teagle, and we provided some information to you.
And I did, and I
On that.
called both roofers, and it was just astronomical what they would charge us to do that.
Because it sounded like, depending on what type of slate it is, that people buy it,
Mhm.
that maybe you could defray some of this cost because they'd come and remove it, or you'd remove it and then they would buy it, even if it's more expensive. And I don't know if you got down to the nitty-gritty on that.
When I
or
talked to
not.
him, he says the only way to do that is have them remove it. He said if they had to take it off, of course, a piece of slate he estimated to be between 5 and 7 pounds. He said, so you would not only, where they're gonna come in here and put, dumpsters underneath of it to take it off and shove it into, you would have to take it off, try to palletize that on a roof, which is steep anyway. You would have to try and palletize it so it doesn't get damaged, and then it's the weight of getting it down. It's just the equipment, and he's telling me it would be 3 times the cost.
So did you call the experts that Robert Teagle recommended?
I did not call them. I actually talked to Martin Roofing, which has done a ton of slate work. He actually had bid on the same job that guy bid on, and they were very close in price. But I had not had a chance to call them and talk to them on it.
It was unclear if the slate roof is original from the research that Historic Christ Church has and the research that the Mary Ball Museum has. They talk about it like when it was renovated in 1920, the slate roof is talked about, but they couldn't. I might have my dates wrong, but they don't know if it was original. But it does look nice. It would be not. I'm with you. If there was some way to save it or.
that was my
Or-
next question.
or
Do you
save-
have a sample? I was looking for a sample. I was hoping you could provide us with a sample of what you're talking about putting on there. Because I'm also thinking that a shingle roof on this old building will look like crap, excuse my French. I mean, maybe we'll go metal or something like that. I mean, if we can't go
Well,
slate.
that is one option. Of course, metal and the slate look, asphalt that we're
I
looking
mean,
at
just to
doing.
give some options.
Yeah, and I can get those. I did not. I've talked to him about it, and he said he could get them to him. Getting contractors out here right now is extremely
I
tough.
get it.
So, I mean, I was kind of blessed to get 2 of them to quote it, and I mean, I had a hard time getting that. It's a terrible time getting anybody out right now. Everybody's so
Well,
busy.
I just, again, certainly not anything to you, Ernie, but it just, as we're talking on the record, I hope the Board of Supervisors can see that we have at our disposal a historical resource committee that could maybe offer some insight or something that we just don't know. I I mean, I don't-
That's exactly the kind of expertise they're supposed to provide us with. So, I think it's logical to turn it over to them and see, not turn it over to them, but refer it to them and
If
get their
nothing-
advice.
Advice, that's all we're doing, we're not looking for anything more than that.
So,
Anyways,
Excuse me, are there major leaks or small leaks?
The major problem that we're having is there's certain areas, mostly in this section, that the shingles are actually loose. You can pick up a 5x6 area at a time. The biggest problem that we've had is the slate has interacted with the copper flashing in the valleys, and the valleys have large holes in them. I have been up there with tape and covered holes as big as 1.25 inches with a rubber tape, and then we had to go and get it's almost like a silicone-based product and put over top of it. If you pull into the parking lot and you look in the valley right along this section here where Brian's old office was, you'll see some white, looks like silicone. That's a coating I've had to put on that whole valley to stop the leaks.
I find it troubling to want to get rid of a slate roof. I think you gotta search every avenue that you can to find some prices, find somebody that, there's a house over Northumberland County, and they was thinking about getting rid of the slate, but somehow somebody came in and fixed it. It looks really nice now. To get rid of a slate roof to put shingles on, no way. I think you need to get somebody else that that knows something about putting on a slate roof and try to keep this slate roof. Compare the prices, talk to different people. Definitely don't go with no asphalt shingles. This roof has boards on it, so I would stick with slate roof.
I agree. Thank you, Glenn.
I'm glad Glenn spoke up.
Well, he's the expert.
Because, he's an expert roofer.
Yeah.
And I am sensitive to the historical value of this, admin building ex courthouse. Maybe we could look a little bit more to see if maybe there's some historic resources commissions or something like that that would know techniques, such as you're talking about, the repair of the roof over in Northumberland County and all that stuff. I think it bears more research. I'm sorry to put the load on you, but.
No fault.
The way I-
It's just-
The
it's
leaks
just-
have to be fixed to
Yeah.
protect the building, but
And
how
that's
do we
the way
do
I
it
go
to
with it.
Preserve the character of the building, that's the
Even
question.
if it costs more, it might be worth it.
And I, like I said, I had not had a chance to call them, but I'll be glad to do that and see, which direction they go with it, see if they would give us a quote on it. The things that we run into here is just getting anybody to quote on projects for us. It's just, nobody wants to deal with it. I'm sure you dealt with that in your field. It's just, nobody wants to deal with slate, and especially trying to take it off and patch valleys throughout the whole building. And that's
Labor
the
costs each
issue.
alive.
Yeah.
As you say, slate is heavy, it's fragile, and they don't produce a lot of it anymore.
Yeah, and that's the issues that I'm running into, is finding somebody that would come out and even give us a quote on it. All of our valleys have holes in them throughout the building. On the treasurer's side, which is the valleys along this side here, and of course on the admin side over here, all of our valleys, we've checked them all, and they all have pinholes in them. And right now, we're working on a silicone-based product just to try and seal them up.
I wonder if they make an artificial slate that would be
They
lighter.
do, and I looked into that. It's a rubber. Did a lot of research on it, and the reviews are not well on it. They say they seem to have a lot of issues with it from the feedback that I'm getting on it. It's very costly, but the feedback that I'm getting is not a good product.
Right.
I think we should move that to number 8 on this list, since I think we're all somewhat in agreement that we prefer the slate roof, even if it costs more, and there needs to be more research
Well-
done, and not number 4 on this list.
I don't have a problem with that, until we learn a little more.
Just-
Ernie, I hate to put you on the hot spot. Appreciate all your work. You're doing a layman's job, I know.
But if we move that to number 8 and move everybody up 1.
You okay with that?
Or the next year, next fiscal year.
Well, I just think
I mean,
We could-
they got leaks, they gotta fix them. but-
Absolutely.
Yeah, if we move it completely to next year, we're gonna have more than leaks. We're
But
gonna
again,
start to
just-
have framing issues.
Just this historical perspective and the slate itself, anyway.
Yeah, it looked terrible.
You guys have anything more for Ernie before I open this up for public hearing? School guys are sitting back like, man, we're in the good seat. We don't have any questions or anything.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ernie.
Anticipate that might change.
I don't know.
Pete,
No
Pete,
slate roof on the new.
Pete Ranson and I could get the HRC. They've been meeting infrequently. They don't meet regularly, but we could get them to take that up and look into
I mean, we've got them
Some-
at our disposal. Why not
some
use them?
options. And as you guys know, you revised the ordinance, and they kind of technically work for you now. So if you direct that, we can make that
That's
happen.
fine. It's all in the family.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, we've got, I don't think we've utilized them since we've been here. Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, I know Lieutenant Haywood has his hand up, and I think he would like to speak.
Oh, I'm sorry. I could not see that.
So,
Glenn, can you bring Mr. Haywood in, please? Is that possible?
Glenn, I know.
Everybody hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Just
Yeah, can you hear us?
yes.
Yes, I apologize, and technology sometimes passes me by, and Ernie texted me and said, hey, we're on, and I've been trying to get on Zoom, and then I got on the phone and trying to figure out so I apologize. But I am here if there's any questions, and apologize again to the board for not being there, but I found out this week that I was gonna be a grandfather, and my daughter has come down for dinner at my house tonight, so I did not want to miss that.
Congratulations.
Jeffrey.
Thank you, thank you.
Can you address
Yes.
the requirement for 2 dispatchers at night that is either currently there or will be there very shortly?
It will come effect in January of '22.
And expand on that a little bit. You will be required to have 2 dispatchers, is it 24 hours a day?
What happens is we will have live EMD, which EMD is emergency medical dispatch. So, say at 2 o'clock in the morning or even 10 o'clock at night, if a 911 call comes in and a lady's husband is having a heart attack, so we proceed to do CPR over the phone. One dispatcher can't very well stop and say, ma'am, hold on, I've got another call coming in. So we've got to have at least 2 dispatchers there. One that's because we can't stop doing EMD once we're giving instructions to answer other calls. So it's going to be required that we have another dispatcher there.
Okay, thank you. That's what I thought. I just didn't know when it took effect.
Jeffrey?
Yes, no, yes.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I said so we're working on getting the EMD in place. We had it in place, and we had some dispatchers leave for personal reasons and different things, and so now we're back. We're getting one of our dispatchers that is a train-the-trainer type thing, so she's getting trained so she can train in-house and get that going this year so that when January comes in, we're in compliance.
Jeffrey, quick question. Are there going to be any protocols regarding general population mingling, for lack of a better term, with our officers, deputies and sheriff, like they do now?
I'm not sure or understand. You talking about inmates or just?
No,
The
the
public
fact that
or
right
what?
now that our, basically our lobby area is open for general public to come in to pay towards whatever, inmates, what do you call it? Account, thank you. I was thinking wallet.
For their canteen, yes.
But right now, I mean, they walk, as you told me, they walk right past the sheriff's office and probably your office and what other deputies there are. Is that correct?
That is correct. When someone comes in, they have, if they have payment for an inmate for their canteen or clothes or whatever the situation may be, we buzz them down the hall and they walk past my office, they walk past the major's office, they walk past the sheriff's office if their doors are open. I mean, we really don't have a screening process, so when the general public comes in, they walk right through all of our admin.
That's crazy. Do you know of any other?
And this is one of the things that we're trying to get rid of, because, you know, back in '78 when that building was built, you didn't have these issues that you have now, and so we're hoping to do this and develop some more SOPs and different things that keeps the public away from that type of situation.
Agreed. That was kind of my biggest point. So,
You guys have anything for Lieutenant Haywood?
No, Lieutenant Haywood, this is Thomas Richardson. I just want to thank you for your time to show me the facility the other day.
Absolutely, and I'm glad you came down, and you can, obviously you saw that we were, these poor girls were on top of each other, and when we have a disaster, well, not a disaster, but a storm like the ice storm, or we have a tornado or a hurricane situation, and you have that many more people in that room, you can see the problems that we have.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you, Lieutenant Haywood.
Right, be glad to, absolutely, but sorry, like again, sorry I couldn't be there, but join you the best way I can, and thank y'all for your support and consideration.
you're in the right spot. Congratulations again.
Yeah, go enjoy that baby.
Thank you, y'all appreciate it. Y'all have a good evening.
You too.
Anybody else have anything before we open the public hearing? Okay, this time I'd like to open up this portion of the meeting regarding the update to Lancaster County Capital Improvements Budget for fiscal year 2022 through 2026. And again, if you come forward, please state your name and your district. Going once? Okay, we'll close this portion.
How about online? Is it anybody online?
Oh, I'm sorry, I can't see that. I keep forgetting. Do we have any hands up, Glenn? Okay. All right, let's close this portion of the meeting, the public hearing. Tom recommended we push the roof, the courthouse roof down to number 8.
What do you think about this order? You want me to read that out loud, or I saw you making notes, but I was making some notes.
Does this just move everything down one?
That
Move it
and,
up one? What did you do here?
And, yeah, my recommendation is to, in the ranking order, is the school security grant number 1, convert to school annex number 2, P25 number 3, sheriff's office expansion number 4, replace HVAC number 5 in the courthouse, and then replace HVAC in the sheriff's, in the jail number 6, and then the patrol vehicle number 7.
Well, apparently those two got reversed in Don's latest version.
Just from the conversation that we've been having, that's the new order I come up with.
So where did you put replace county administration building roof?
Number 8. Did I not get there?
Okay.
Yeah.
So basically, we're just moving that out, moving it to number 8, moving everything up 1?
Well, then there's just a tweak there with the HVAC.
Yeah, you moved the HVAC up to the 5th
No,
position
Instead of
the
7,
7th,
yeah.
Yeah.
and
Just
shifted the,
because it sounds like you need to do it.
Okay.
Sounds like we did it.
Is everybody on board with that? Glenn, you okay with that? Moving the roof down
I
to the
agree.
bottom? Instead of at number 4?
It's kind of, it's almost not a, it's just funny, I mean, it's a priority. I almost want to move it to number 1, but I want it done the right way.
With the roof?
Yeah.
Agreed.
No, I mean, if there's a way we can do it the right way and keep the slate, then even if it costs more, I just would like to know that. It's not like I don't think it's not important,
What are your
but
thoughts,
at this
Todd?
price and just throwing it off and.
You want to leave it as it is
shingles on.
with speculation? I mean, with the points about moving it forward? What do you
You know
think?
what I mean?
well, I was good with just moving the 161 to the bottom and get more information. I mean, the Board of Supervisors can approve
Okay.
that.
Okay. You guys okay with that? Glenn?
Okay. Yes, that's fine.
All right, so everything will stay the same? Okay. Don, do we need to read that out individually?
Yes.
Moving forward? Okay, all right, we've got a motion, here, you want to, all right, we've got a motion on the floor with you guys' approval to forward fiscal year 2022 capital improvement budget rankings as follows. Number 1, school security grant matching funds. Item number 2, funds to convert the school annex into early childhood classrooms. 3, P25 digital radio upgrades. Item number 4, Sheriff's Office building expansion. Item number 5, replace HVA system in courthouse. Item number 6, am I going too fast, Brian? Item number 6, Sheriff's Office HVAC replacement, jail. Item number 7, Sheriff's Office patrol vehicle. And moving replace county administration building roof to number 8 with an asterisk stating we'd just like more information.
Read the total amount.
Fiscal year totals, $1,643,995. With that motion presented, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Motion as presented, passed. Thank you, Tom.
That's a good discussion. Thank you.
Very good discussion. All right. Item number 5 is on tonight's agenda. It's a consideration item, Chapter 6 Comprehensive Plan. Brian, you want to bring us up to speed, please?
Yes, indeed. You guys got to last work on this in January, and you recommended a few changes. I made those, and the only other item I addressed in this draft you see now is at the end, where we added some paragraphs. We actually started a whole new Section L, electrical service and grid, and there's just a brief kind of mention as to the electrical situation on the northern neck generally and Lancaster County in particular. It's been brought to my attention, as Charlie mentioned earlier, Dominion Power is called Dominion Energy now. So I already have an edit on page 6-17 in that first paragraph. I need to change that from Dominion Power to Dominion Energy probably. I have a couple of places where I capitalized South for some reason and didn't capitalize it anywhere else. But for the most part, the main thrust of that was an attempt to get references to utility scale solar energy in our comprehensive plan, and we would proudly be the first northern neck county to do that, which is kind of odd, but anyway. I mentioned the transmission line running through the county, the way it bisects the county, just kind of trying to give a definition there, just like the comp plan does with other types of infrastructure. And just kind of mention that we have no power generation that occurs in this county locally. Richmond County does have a power plant. Y'all probably heard about that. There's I believe it's diesel powered that kicks in sometimes. If you're near it, you'll smell it. But there's no such generation that takes place in Lancaster County at all. So I thought this was a way to get some mention on the board. I think in Chapter 7, you guys will have a chance to put a little bit more detail together on how you would like to see ag and forestry lands used for solar if they are. But this was just a first attempt. It probably needs some work. I also, Mr. Richardson mentioned a minute ago, and that this is true. There's no mention in this draft of the Triway Trail
That Jimmy talked about?
that Jimmy talked about. So, because after Jimmy's presentation to now, I haven't had a chance to really get you guys to discuss and give us a
And
sense
it's
of
not anything
where you want to go
concrete.
with that. Yeah.
I thought about that, but.
Yeah. I will say I liked Jimmy's presentation. The two things that bothered me was the over-reliance on bringing people here. I think that's important. Tourism's an important component, but I don't think that we and Mr. Lee and I talk about this a lot with public access and just the fact that there's nowhere in this county you can just go and play basketball, for instance, that's not the YMCA or a place where you got to be a member or pay. Almost, I mean, even Stanton, and I can think of lots of rural counties and towns I've been through recently. Culpeper, downtown Culpeper has a brand new nice basketball court set up. They've even got a skate park for the kids, a little half pipe and some other stuff. I mean, doesn't cost a lot, but it means a lot if you're a 12, 13, 14-year-old kid or a teenager or an adult who wants to play basketball. So I would rather personally see some development of a walking trail and park and things to reward the people who already sacrifice here, the people who work at the hospital, the people who teach, the people who have been through Hvac the last 12 months, to have a place here locally that they can go and walk. So that's the only criticism I have of Jim. The talk was very reliant on tourism, which is important, but I see it more as, hey, we've got 10,000 people in this county who were here before it was hip, before COVID. So
Let's not forget he's in sales.
yeah. So that other than that, I would rather see. I got a little nervous when he started talking money too, because as a county staff person, you always get nervous about money. You don't want to commit the county to a big bill to helping to pay for the $1 million a mile trail that local citizens may not get that much use out of. Hopefully they will.
No,
but-
I think the trail that citizens would love, so I'm not
Yeah.
sure where you're going, because tourists may come down and use it, but I would think 80 to 90% would be local people using that trail.
Yeah, I would hope so. I would hope so.
I don't think
indeed. Yeah.
it's not a thing that's for out-of-towners. And there is a whole section in here of bicycle, walking, and water trails. There's a group, that group is getting together, and I thought that they had told me that they sent you some language that they kind of wanted to tweak that section 3C.
Okay.
But if you didn't get it, you didn't get it. And it talks about paths and trails and maybe we get specific about the Triway Trail, but maybe we don't, because it may not work out. But
That's what, Taran, I was saying, it's.
I think there's something else
Still
to-
a dream right now, which
Yeah,
hopefully is a
I
reality.
think there's something else to think about with the Triway Trail, that is the role that the county plays that Jimmy did not touch on at all. But it would involve you all very heavily, and that is zoning. So this idea of trails and connectors, pathways, I've gone and done some studying on them. Right before COVID, I went to Orlando, Florida, and looked at a really neat one that is about 7 miles long. And all along it, there are these stores that cater to the trail. They're bike shops, they're even a flower shop I saw. I guess people might buy flowers while they're walking on the trail, I don't know. But all the trail was designed so that the utilities that served that store came in from a different way. So if you're driving to your bike shop that's on the bike trail, and the walking trail in Winter Garden, Florida, you don't drive anywhere near the trail. You don't even see the parking lot for that stuff. So it's very pedestrian friendly. I think that's something to think about as planners. I think along his proposed route, you need to think that maybe a whole new district would have to be proposed that would be kind of a commercial district, but it would be really small where, you know, sometimes we're talking 2,000, 4,000 square foot. I'm talking almost kiosk size or 500 square foot, 1,000 square foot boxes along a trail, either selling food, a little cafe, or bike kind of services, things like that. That's something to think about. Having amenities like that near that would help. But that's coming down the road. But the first thing, like you mentioned, you've got to get it in your comp plan. I can try to add some of the language in that 3C area if you'd like. And while I'm thinking about it, one other local amenity that I struck out erroneously was Golden Eagle Golf Course on 6-8. The Tides Inn does not own the Golden Eagle any longer, but it's certainly still there and in operation. So I need to reword that on 6-8, that strike, and figure that back out.
On 6-7, can you add the library as a privately owned facility?
I thought that was in there.
Is it in there?
Thought I saw
They
it.
talk about Dreamfields, YMCA, and Compass, but you don't mention,
Okay?
I don't know, is the library mentioned at all in here? I
Yeah,
didn't read
hang on
that.
one second, I remember seeing, hang on.
Which we should point it out, it's a fabulous library that benefits the whole county,
I know damn well I saw it, where is it?
and it's privately run.
Okay.
It's listed on 610, but it's just by itself. It's not,
I knew I saw it, thanks,
it's
Don.
the third paragraph on 610.
Yeah, yeah. But if you would like, if you guys would like you know, you have a kind of a little paragraph for each one of those facilities there. And we just added one for Compass as well, as you know, right there with privately owned facilities. So, yeah, I can do that. I may email you some language as I tweak that
Yeah,
in the
I
next
think
week or
it's
two or three.
important,
But
and I can get you, I'll reach out to them and ask them for some language. If you're gonna point out those others specifically, it's just as big a factor as those others, if not bigger, in my opinion.
What's that, the library?
Yeah.
Yeah.
and there was something else that you needed.
More than,
Yeah, the Golden Eagle needs to come back in some regard. Do you guys think that Golden Eagle, the way that the ownership and operation structure is now, do you think that's pretty sustainable for the future, or at least for the next 5 years? They rescued it, and it seems to be working, but,
I think so, yeah.
I mean,
for the next 5 years.
who the heck knows?
true. That's true.
But I mean, they seem to be doing okay, I mean, but,
I mean, it's important to keep a golf
We are a high
in the community.
retiree community, and
Yeah.
the median age is high, and that golf is the sport.
I mean,
I think.
at one
I
time, the
think it'll
county
be
had 3
successful.
daggone golf courses. You would hope they could at least support one.
I don't know if you guys got a chance on 6-10 to look at solid waste facility. In discussions with solid waste manager Don Gill, Mr. Lee, we did add a little sentence there. Current user demand sometimes exceeds capacity at the Kilmarnock White Pine Drive site. The county should begin to explore options for an additional site in the southern end of the county not currently well served with a collection point possibly located in the Whitestone
Saw
area.
that, but I knew that was a big,
Um,
big,
I don't know how you guys think about that, but I feel like, you know, as a county staff person, if there was a piece of land that came up that the county could purchase, having kind of a justification there, that there is a defined need there. If you guys go to the Kilmarnock site on some Saturday mornings, it's at max capacity.
hey, Brian, as I was going through here just real quickly, if you guys don't mind me jumping in, on 6-2, first paragraph. VDOT actually updates that pretty, regularly. Most recent one's 2019, so if we could change the 2010 to 2019.
Okay.
And then interestingly enough, the daily traffic on Route 3 has remained the same. However, the daily traffic for Route 200 between Kilmarnock, Irvington, Whitestone is down to 6,000, according to the same 2019 publication. And then Route 354 is also down to 1,900.
but that's least recent.
Oh, wow, okay.
And then,
All right, I will get that done.
on 6-3, I mean, you talk about increased traffic, but it's, to me, it's, I wish the best for Jimmy, but the 470 acre Hills Quarter development, you know, maybe not be the same that we thought it was gonna be when we wrote this comp plan, so do we wanna change those words to the increased traffic because it's in our preferred growth area, our PGA? You know, certainly would speak to Compass in there, and, you know, wishing Jimmy the best, but Hills Quarter, I don't even know if he even calls it Hills Quarter any longer. I think he was called Blue or something,
Okay. Yeah, it's
Blue something.
6-3.
And then on the following page, 6-4, going all the way down almost to the bottom, we got public funding of new road construction. Those are very old. Our most recent one's 2019, so they've got to have updated budgets for VDOT, I would think. I couldn't put my fingers on that, but
Okay.
we've got to have updated for those.
Yeah, I can, I've got a pretty good rapport with the new VDOT superintendent. I'll reach out to him. I know he can send me those new numbers.
I just got those numbers.
Okay, great.
Boom, there you go.
All right. And yeah, on 6-3, I'll update the Hills Quarter language, and the other,
And then, on 6-11, the new verbiage we added regarding the town of Whitestone. I know it's our comprehensive plan, and I don't want to belittle anything, but I don't think we want to call, again, this is just me talking out loud, thinking out loud. But the town of Whitestone is currently developing a small septic treatment facility. Well, it's going to treat all of Whitestone, so I don't think that should be considered small, you know, maybe in the overall scheme of things, but it is the town of Whitestone.
Just take out the word small.
Yeah, just take out the word
Okay.
small. And,
On that same page, B2, this is development of a countywide long-range wastewater treatment facility plan. I mean, is there anybody looking at that, or thinking about it, or doing anything remotely?
There was a study done several years ago, and the board voted down any further action at that time.
I mean, that's the biggest issue, I think, with developing a long-term countywide wastewater treatment facility. I think really a lot of effort should be put into it now before what we talk about up here, failing septic systems in the rising water table, that it just all of a sudden becomes a major emergency. That if we only had planned 20 years ago and started working on it, we wouldn't be sitting, you know, it's gonna be that discussion at some point.
yeah, I've had actually some discussions in this room last year, with some people from VIMS. And I also have gotten to know a professor at ODU who's an expert in this subject, especially, he kind of cut his teeth in eastern North Carolina in real low-lying places where rising sea level issues forced actually septic systems to be abandoned and people either to leave or to develop engineered systems. And we had a kind of a design for a research project he was going to do on Lancaster County, similar to what he's done in eastern North Carolina, and study that. And we have not been able to get grant funding for that yet, but hopefully, we haven't given up, but
It's not nearly as, you know,
yeah.
exciting or sexy as
No,
the broadband authority.
No, but it's,
there really needs to be a wastewater authority that is planning this out in the future, which is not a very exciting, it's just whatever.
do you think keeping that language there, Mr. Richardson,
It
at
needs to
least
be.
for now?
Yeah, it needs to
okay.
be kept, it just needs to be bolded, it needs to
Okay.
be somehow.
Needs to be acted on.
Acted on, just not put in a shelf for the next 5 years.
Can you go back to 6-5?
Yes, sir.
what makes you think we'll do that? Mr. Smart?
Back on 6-5.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Lee.
Back on 6-5, there's a sentence in the 1, 2, 3 down, third paragraph down. And I just spoke to you just yesterday about this the grant for paving the shoulder between Hvac and Irvington. along Route 200. Either we, that's old. That grant is been around for a long time. We received money to do that. Nothing's been done. So the wording needs to be changed. Something needs to be done there that we are pursuing that. Because right now, it's just kind of, it's a statement. The county has received ISTEA grant to pave the shoulders between Irvington and Kemah. Well, that happened some time ago that we got that grant.
Yeah.
So we need to be saying this is, the timeline is 2023, this is gonna be done, it's gonna be completed by that time.
I mean, there was a
It's just sitting there. I mean, this is just sitting there.
I mean, there was a widening of that road that VDOT did that actually created somewhat of a shoulder, 7 years ago.
Yeah.
I guess that had nothing to do with this, you're telling me.
Been a while ago. I don't think it was a part of that, no.
The widening of that road, creating a quasi bike lane, it's not an officially sized VDOT bike lane, but
Right.
it's a quasi bike lane. That's been completed, and the grant that Mr. Lee is speaking of is long since passed, so I don't, nothing further is gonna happen with that. So,
If nothing further is gonna happen, we need to take it over here.
that's exactly right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that last, those last, it wouldn't be the last sentence, but I guess the next to the last would be completely struck.
So you didn't receive the grant, the money's not sitting in an account, is that what you're saying?
No, it's gone. It's gone. I mean, the money has been expended. It's nothing
Okay.
there.
Okay.
All right.
Mr.
Yeah,
Small.
thank you. Just three things. First off is kudos to Brian, I think, who wrote this. On page 617 is the electrical service and grid. I think that's a good summary, a good write-up.
Thank you.
It describes what that infrastructure, the electrical infrastructure is. We didn't have that before, and it's very important. The next thing is you mentioned this also on page 6-9. At this time, there are no public basketball courts in Lancaster County open to the public in a park or similar setting. And I was aghast when I read that. I hadn't really thought about it, but for a lot of young people in this county, having a basketball court is probably more important than water access, because they don't own a boat, but they own a basketball. And I think we ought to try to, and that wouldn't be terribly expensive either. There ought to be something we can do to get maybe one basketball court up county and one down county, where they could go to play basketball, and lit at night so that they can go and play at night. And the final one, I hope we don't give up on bicycle trails completely. I think working with the state, with VDOT, when they pave a road, if they can add just like a foot or two along the side, it makes it a lot safer for bicycles. And that's one thing that this county really has. The terrain is good for bicycle, C-grade trails that have some up and down and some that are perfectly flat. This county is great for bicycle. And the scenery is gorgeous. People could come and stay at Belle Isle State Park and then ride the 354 down to Bertrand and back, take the ferry across at Mary Point. It's a great opportunity, and I think it would be a draw. But like Brian says right now, it's not going to be something that's going to draw a lot of people here. But these things build slowly over time, and if you build the infrastructure and the word gets out, people will come. So I hope we don't give up on bicycling and bicycle trails. And in connection with that, there are Amish coming into the area now. And wider roads are definitely a safety factor with those carriages that they drive along at 20 miles an hour.
Oh, yeah.
So a bicycle path adds width to the road and makes it safer. You know.
Agreed. Thank you, Mr. Smart.
Thank you.
I got something else, and I know it was just stated about this electrical grid, but I don't understand what we're trying to do here, Mr. Barnes. These solar farms can only be a limited distance from a transmission line. So why are we coming in here and saying 1 mile or less when there's already a limitation? Why are we, what is the purpose of putting this 1 mile or less?
I base that on what I've been told by people in the industry, that they generally want to be located in those areas. That's preferable. The closer they are to the power line, the better. If you want me to remove that, I can.
What's the standard limitation? Because there is a limitation already, you know, that they.
Sure, there's a functional limitation on the length of the generation tie line, but from a practical perspective, anytime you put out a,
No, that's fine. But if you don't mind, just state your name for Crystal.
Oh, sure, Scott Foster with Gentry Lock here on behalf of Open Road Renewables.
Thank you.
Anytime you throw out a number, you know, it's gonna be arbitrary. A mile is probably too tight of a band, because you're gonna end up kind of with unintended consequences with regards to avoiding prime farmland, your buffers and setbacks, et cetera. If you're gonna throw out a number, we would need at least 2 miles, 2.5, 3 miles. But my suggestion would be, is to have it be, you know, generally located around the transmission lines, and then leave out the hard and fast number altogether. Yeah. But you are correct, the State Corporation Commission does limit the length of the generation tie line, but the facility, that's from the closest portion of the facility to the transmission line. Mm-hmm. The facility can stretch beyond that.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah, I understand that.
Yeah, so,
Yeah, I just.
so to answer your question simply, I'm trying to put bumpers in there, Mr. Lee, for land use planning. Just so, I've learned in 13 years of enforcing ordinances that if you don't have a rule, nobody will follow a rule.
Yeah.
You know, you gotta have some way of deciding where in your county you're gonna put it and where you're gonna try to restrict it, knowing that restrictions only work about half the time even there. So that was my attempt there. And Mr. Lee, honestly, that comes from me talking to Halifax and Mecklenburg County, because they're the only two counties I've come across who, other than Surrey, and Surrey won't return my calls, but they're the only two counties who I think are progressive in this issue and ahead of us. Halifax County has gone so far as to put in their comprehensive plan that solar should only be 2% of the county. So once they get to 2%, it's capped. And they also have some rules about agriculture, to preserve agriculture. If there's a solar farm in one spot, they kind of draw a compass radius around it, and there can be no other solar farms in that area. Then you got to move over a couple miles, you can park another one. But they're trying to keep their farmers from being crowded out. And
well, and that's well and good.
And I've been warned about that.
I think this 1 mile is
Okay.
a little too tight, you know.
Okay.
That was my big concern, 1 mile or less.
Okay.
Maybe 2 miles is the right number, I don't know, but I think 1 mile is too tight there.
Okay. I there again, just like I did with the ordinance, I'll throw stuff out there so that you got to get something on paper somewhere. So if you guys think that's
I mean, that's
too
my
restrictive.
opinion, but I'm sorry.
I agree with that, and I'll go even further. I think we have several things in this page 618
Yeah,
that really belong in the ordinance. Should have been in the ordinance and not in the comprehensive plan. Comprehensive plan is not, you don't put requirements in there. It doesn't have to be adhered to. So I feel that way about the 1 mile or less. I don't think that should be in there. If we wanted to do that, we should have discussed it in the Planning Commission and in the Board of Supervisors and exposed that to the public comment and had it in the ordinance. I feel that way about high productivity soils. I don't think we should be mandating that avoidance in the comprehensive plan. If we had wanted to do that, we should have discussed it as a planning commission and as a board of supervisors and before the public and decided to do it. It seems to me that if a farmer's got 100 acres and he can grow corn on it and make $20,000 a year, or he can lease it to a solar farm installation and make $100,000 a year for 30 years guaranteed, seems to me that that's a decision he should be making.
Okay.
I mean, we wouldn't even think of mandating that he not be able to use his high productive soils, turn it into a Christmas tree farm. Anyway, I think we've got considerable language on this page that belonged in the ordinance and not in a comprehensive plan.
The other thing that I see, Mr. Barnes, in here, and I don't understand this sentence. I don't know what we're trying to force energy company to do, but it says projects should be designed in such a way that having utility scale facilities will help portions of the county return to full electrical power quicker following disaster. So I'm not sure what we trying to force a company to do by saying that, you know, I don't understand.
Okay.
I mean, is
Yeah.
anybody else reading?
Is that even
Like
possible?
we trying to make the main energy and say, okay,
Yeah,
you're here, we gotta get these people turned back on quick, you know, because you're here.
Is it possible?
That's another thing.
Yeah.
I don't understand that.
okay. In a perfect world, you guys will be able to sit in my desk 8 hours a day every once in a while and see what is thrown at us as staff. And this word resiliency is, I mean, there's 3 webinars a day that Don and I get invited to sit in on. And this word resiliency and sustainability word is here. It's right. It's the talk of Richmond, and it's not going away. There's a big thrust to be more disaster resilient counties. There's not money available yet, but there's a lot of webinars. I've been missing most of them because I'm just too darn busy. But this general idea of a community being faster to recover from a disaster is a huge, huge thing. When you talk to solar developers, that's not really in their wheelhouse. They're not interested in that. I bet you if you talk to your friends and family and people at the grocery store and barbershop, because I know they're bending my ear when I go out about that we need more benefit from this, Brian. What's the benefit for me? And as you all know, 90% of the people who are against something are never going to have the guts to stand at the podium, just like 90% of the people who are in favor of something never come in here to speak for it, and a lot of good things die because there's no support, or at least no perceived support. I think the resiliency is important to me, just as somebody my age. I guess that's just kind of how we think differently. We've seen a world in my adult life. You get out of college in 2000, and since 2000, the world has not gotten better. It's gotten worse. So I think there's an interest generally in law and in the state to see more resiliency all around in everything we do, whether it's sea level rise planning, whether it's more storm resilient development where you have lots of places for stormwater to go off of roofs and things like that. And I think the grid resiliency is a big thing, not just from an electromagnetic standpoint, but also from if a big storm comes through and it knocks down. That happened in Isabel. That's why we were out of power for 2 weeks, is because that main transmission line was destroyed in some places. The thought is we're so far from Surrey Nuclear Power Plant and from Lake Anna. The thought is it should be a good thing to have a couple of utility scale solar farms in our county, because if the grid line is destroyed by 120-mile-an-hour winds, these guys can go over there once our main lines are up locally, which in some cases only takes a day or two. They can throw the switch and we're back on, right? That's grid resiliency. why not make it to where when a project comes into your county, you say, hey, machinery and tools taxes, a lot of these things are already abated. Some of these projects cost $50, $80 million, right? If I came into this county with a $50 million paper mill that I'm developing, what's my annual tax gonna be? I'll bet you it's gonna be upwards of about $10 million for my property taxes. One of these big solar farms, you're talking 200,000. Well, what's the benefit to the county? There need to be other things, I think, that we should push for. And grid resiliency is just an idea. I've never really seen it anywhere other than it's being talked about in North Carolina and it's being talked about in the state in general. I think it's not a bad thing. Does it belong in the comp plan? Maybe not. You guys, I just work for you. I'm trying to be progressive and throw some things out there.
I think it's good. I think maybe stopping at the grid resiliency, the first sentence, that's great, but maybe pull out the next two sentences and then, wrap it up, leave it a little bit.
Okay.
Because, you go on to say
Leave it
projects
on.
that fail to address this,
Yeah.
will be denied basically.
I-
And that's,
I think overall, it's, we want resiliency, so I think it's a good discussion.
I'd like to hear what an expert has to say on this subject.
Sure. Thank you. Scott Foster again. Brian's not wrong about the macro idea of having generation throughout the grid and that it can increase reliability. The difficulty is, and as Mr. Richardson points out, comes in the second two sentences there, is that they should be designed in a way that having utility scale facilities will help portions of the county return to full electrical power quicker following disasters. So we would love to be able to say we can do that, but as a single project, there's no way we could quantify or guarantee that. That is a PJM interconnection decision. That's a Dominion grid decision. So there is no way that any solar developer, even if Dominion was developing this project, that they could comply with the latter half of that. But Brian is spot on that having generation throughout the grid does generally increase reliability, but the ability to get the county back online in short order would entirely be on a case-by-case basis, and I couldn't guarantee that one project would be able to make a difference in an individual situation.
All right, so grid resiliency, and then I'll strike the rest before you see it again.
Well, until you get down to project must have a robust plan for protecting.
Pardon?
Not the rest of the whole paragraph, just the two sentences.
Right, the next, that's right, that's what I mean.
And
by
then it
that,
would
yeah.
pick back up when you talk about robust plan for protecting
Yeah,
air,
and
soil.
if you think
water.
that next language is too strong, that's fine, let me know. Projects must have a robust plan for protecting.
No, I
That
think that's
refers,
good. That's
yeah,
good.
that refers to the decommissioning plan
Yep.
that our ordinance
that's good.
requires.
That's good.
no problem with
You don't, the comp plan and ordinances of a county kind of work together. There's things that maybe an ordinance doesn't mention that I think you have legal basis to rely on with a comp plan to keep it simple, but, I work for you guys. You guys tell me where you want to go with it. If, I will make these changes you've recommended. I really think it's important just to have something before July 1 approved, that even if it's a sentence somewhere in our comp plan that mentions utility scale
Oh,
solar.
for sure.
Because nobody else is doing that, and I
We're
think they're
getting
gonna
close.
get,
I think we
You're gonna get in
we
big
gotta
trouble.
start, yeah.
This
Yeah.
is a very nice draft. Again,
Yeah.
that's why we're
Okay.
here to bring it open to have comment. But I think it's excellent points and an excellent start. You guys have anything else you'd like to add for the consideration item, chapter 6?
No, I think that was a lot of good discussion, and I think Brian has some work to do, that,
I think it's-
on top of everything else he
Yeah.
does.
I was gonna try to bring you guys a look at chapter 7 next month, but I think with all this, I might put that off one more month if that's okay with
Yeah,
you.
put that off.
Okay, so we'll make the revisions and come back and review it next month? That'll give us, let's see, April, May, that'll give us plenty of time.
Yeah, I'm not too worried about that. I think that would be fine. You will have two rezonings, next month that are now on the boilerplate, so,
Are we talking like major or with just
no,
parcels?
they're just, small one-lot residential kind of rezonings, so.
No new businesses coming to town?
Pardon?
No new businesses coming to town?
No, this will be, one is an M1 that wants to go to R1, and the other is an R1 that wants to go to A2.
So down.
The only problem with the M1, of course, is a waterfront, so there'll be an interesting component to that, because it's a waterfront
I
M1.
think I know which one you're talking about. Interesting. Any other business, guys?
Yeah, I got one.
Yes.
I really hate to bring this up, it's kind of a pain in the neck, but as you guys may recall, the last time we saw the solar power ordinance was back in October, and we had a public hearing on it, and we forwarded it to the board with a recommendation for approval and with a recommendation for 2 changes in what we had before us. We haven't seen it since. I decided to look at it a couple days ago to prepare for this meeting, and much to my surprise, I found that the 2 suggestions we made at our public hearing for changes to be made before it went to the board were not made. As it happens, they were both my suggestions. Just to refresh your memory, and I'm reading from Crystal's always fine notes, which are complete and accurate and everything you need for this kind of thing. But anyway, I'm reading from her notes of the October public hearing. Mr. Chuff stated that he was proposing adding the phrase that reads, "If the services of engineers or other technical experts are required to properly evaluate any aspect of the solar facility, the expenses of such services shall be borne by the applicant/operator of the facility." That's not in our ordinance. Crystal goes on to say, Mr. Smart made a motion to recommend with approval the draft utility scale solar ordinance to the Board of Supervisors with the 2 changes mentioned by Mr. Chuck. The other change was just kind of a conforming change. The section where it talked about construction noise, we actually talked about that in 2 different sections of the code. In one, we changed it to read 85 decibels, an average of 85 decibels over a day's time. In the other section, we hadn't changed that, so I proposed that we change that. So that was my second change. Neither one are in the ordinance. I feel especially strongly that the second one can be an important advantage for the county in the years to come. And the other one we need to change because it kind of makes us look stupid. Anyway.
I think the board made those changes as well. That version's not online yet.
Oh, hopefully that's,
Yeah, because
So I think-
remember.
Yeah, it's not, the final version hasn't been
Oh.
posted yet.
okay.
Yeah, I think you're okay. I'll double check on that first one, but I know the second one was echoed by the board. Yeah, because when we get their packets out, they read those minutes as well. They read your recommended minutes as well, so I'll make sure that was done. That being said, just be prepared. This ordinance is brand new, and if it's anything like what I've seen in the past, and Don, tell me if I'm wrong, in 6 months or a year, it's gonna come back to you guys for a minor tweak here or there. So it's, I think, it's not chiseled in stone. Ordinances, as you guys know, you guys revise ordinances all the time. They're supposed to be flexible and change with the time. So as we go through it, I think we're gonna find some things that don't work well with it, or that are cumbersome, or whatever, so, anyway.
Either way, I think you and patting ourselves on the back, I think we didn't rush into this. I think it's a pretty darn good ordinance as written. I mean, given what we had to work with.
I agree.
Yeah.
I think it's excellent.
Any other business, guys?
Nope, I don't. You guys?
Okay. All right, I'd like to thank everyone that came out tonight, and